Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Wicked Bee of the West YouTube channel. My name is Dr. Stephanie Diana Eubank. I teach business administration over at Stan State, and I am also the owner of Wicked Bee of the West Consulting. So, again, in this eight-part series, we're going to be discussing some of the different types of isolation that employees are dealing with. And this isn't just employees, this is also leadership that is dealing with it. So, our overall workforce is dealing with these types of isolation. Regardless of their modality, although these modalities are causing additional friction to these types of isolation. Today's form of isolation that we're going to discuss is professional isolation. What is professional isolation? Professional isolation is the emerging concern, especially for remote and hybrid workers, that is really embedded in the old ways of having organizational culture and organizational life. And specifically, it's the old school mindset that leadership, when you're in the office, leadership can see what you're doing and thus recognize you for your work and your performance. However, we have been seeing as we see more and more companies adopting a top-down approach and not utilizing Kaizen methodologies, specifically with regards to the business philosophy aspect of being human-centric, where performance isn't really being noticed or recognized by those in non-leadership roles. Basically, only those in leadership are really getting acknowledged for the work, and not enough credit is being shared around. We're also seeing where you can't really move up unless you move into a leadership role in many organizations. So a lot of people end up stagnant within their a role and feel, especially in remote and hybrid, like their work isn't really being seen and they don't feel like they're being seen as the human side of the work. This impacts not just remote and hybrid workers, but our in person workers as well, because they're also not feeling appreciated in the workplace and suffering from this type of professional isolation. Because even though there's room for them to physically see their leadership and their leaders, it doesn't necessarily mean that those people have their names in their mouth in good ways. So it is really causing a rift within the workforce as far as feeling seen and feeling valuable, not just for remote workers, but in person and hybrid. But traditionally, these types of isolation have been researched solely for the purpose of seeing if they're actually occurring for remote workers. And remote workers are really vulnerable. Even though remote work has proven it's here to stay, as I keep repeating, it's the fact that remote workers, especially prior to COVID, were more likely to be laid off than the in person workers solely because there was less of a face to put with the work. However, there's some key things that remote and hybrid workers, and I also recommend in person workers implement to help prevent professional isolation, such as proactively reaching out for regular check ins with supervisors and developing mentorship within your organization. And I also recommend going out even virtually and doing networking to have kind of a virtual coffee with people in your field that you can gain additional networking and mentorship. Because let's face it, your network is also your greatest asset as a workforce member. Second, strengthening your professional network through virtual communities and even in person communities. This often can take on the role of signing up for your internal mentorship programs or signing up to do volunteer activities within your organization. And again, this does not preclude your remote workers or your hybrid workers. There's also just reaching out to people outside of your regular day to day. This is not only really good within your organization for networking, but good for your overall mental health, especially in the workforce. Increasing your camera presence, especially with regards to meetings. So, asking your manager, and I recommend if you're going to try to request more meetings with your manager and supervisors, etc., and you want more camera focus so that they actually see you as a human being, that you let everybody know ahead of time whether you're going to have cameras on or not. Because for one, that can be draining on your Wi-Fi, and for two, not everybody is comfortable just jumping in and having their camera on, whether they're in person, remote, or hybrid. So, giving a heads up beforehand so that way everybody is camera ready is a great way to start. Also, for those who are in person and hybrid, if they're trying to have more of that visibility and trying to aim for more of that visibility in person versus remote, I recommend taking some time and researching your professional visage, especially with regards to your personal style and or how you present yourself in the workplace. And this can be a little bit different for everybody and especially looks different for those who are neurodivergent like me. Also, communicating your accomplishments more. Don't worry about whether it sounds like you're bragging or not. You need to brag about yourself and all the great stuff you're doing, because let's face it, not all leaders are going to. And if they're not going to sing your praises, you need to make sure to belt it out. Next, request stretch in assignments and mentorship. Basically, look and see where you can add additional value to the organization and where you can take on additional projects. Now, this doesn't work for everybody, but it is a good way, especially when you're starting out in the earlier parts of your career. Also, making sure that you're creating predictable availability windows, especially in remote work and those who are neurodivergent, you can have interruption rage. And so, making sure that you're putting on your schedule blocked out time for when you're taking your breaks, blocked out time that are like quiet time, and making sure to note that in your calendar is a great way to help with that. But also making sure that you're showing yourself as being available and what you're doing so that leadership is able to see that qualitative approach. These are all great ways that you can help as being a workforce or non-managerial role. For those who are in leadership, again, working within your organizational culture to have more frequent communication, increasing your visibility with your workers, whether that's making sure to reach out to them, not just because something's wrong. We see too many leaders reaching out to team members only when something's wrong, and that just causes anxiety and lowers morale in your team. Encouraging cross-functional collaboration, you going and working with other leaders within your organization to try and have cross collaboration to see where you can increase connection and develop projects that add more value to your organization are always welcome. Utilize the technology you have available. Telling or asking your team to have a just social lunch where you guys are all on camera and talking about the weather or the Lunar New Year is a great way to help stay connected. Implementing hybrid touch points where possible. If there's some of your if you have some of your teams in person versus remote or hybrid or some variants of the three, having like a digital lunch and having those who can't be there in person and those who can is a great way to help enhance connection. And before you say, oh, well, we can't go to lunch all together and have it virtual, yes, you can. Teams and Zoom are accessible from your phone. It is it is extra work, and as leaders, you should be willing to do the extra work to help your team feel more involved. And lastly, training leaders to be more inclusive about remote and hybrid work. That is the best thing any organization can do to help enhance their ability to really help their teams thrive. That's all I have for you today. As always, make sure to like and subscribe, and remote work, it's here to stay.